So, Bryan, last thing we're going to talk about today, some more exciting news. Yesterday, we talked about Malachi Fields coming in. This time, we're going to talk about a commitment for the 2026 class. Offensive lineman Ben Nichols has committed to Notre Dame, and he is now the sixth commitment for the 2026 class, which is exciting. So that's starting to fill out a little bit. And I know you know a lot about this kid's backstory and what his journey was getting to this point. So, take it away, man. Let's hear a little bit about Ben Nichols.
This is a pretty basic one, Trevor. It's a kid that they identified early. They've had him in camps, saw him up close and personal, and they've had him on campus a bunch of times. He was at the Notre Dame USC game last year. He was at the Notre Dame Northern Illinois game this year. Still like Notre Dame after watching that game, which is always good. He's been on campus 5 times. I think the only team he's visited more than Notre Dame is Michigan State, which is close to kind of where he lives in Davison, Michigan. So this is one of those ones that it's not an overly complicated backstory. I mean, it really isn't. It's one of those ones that you look at and say, okay, they liked him. He was on campus a bunch, worked out at Notre Dame, was at their summer camp, and they liked him, and they recruited him. And he ends up picking Notre Dame over his 4 finalists, which also included Penn State, Tennessee, and Wisconsin. Notre Dame seems to really like beating Wisconsin. I don't know why. I don't know where that connection might be and why that they might want to do that. But it's a strong pickup, right? Because it's when you're going after a player that you like at a position that is of your strength, you want to go get him. And Notre Dame was able to do that. As far as his profile, Trev, he's not as highly ranked as some of Notre Dame's other offensive linemen they've landed in past years, but I don't think Notre Dame cares about that. He's also not a low-profile guy. He grades out on the Irish Breakdown board as a 4-star recruit with a top 250 grade right now. He does have a 4.5-star upside grade on my board. And I'm kind of in line with most of the recruiting services on him. On3 has him as a 4-star. So does ESPN and Rivals. On3 ranks him as the number 207 player in the country. ESPN's at 235, Rivals at 242. So we see him, as far as the current grade, about the same right now. I think he's a young man that has the upside to be a really impact player at the next level. He plays left tackle in high school. He projects to be a guard at Notre Dame. But this is a good pickup. And, look, you've got a quarterback in this class, and Dylan Faison, who's not a quarterback. He's their receiver. You've got Noah Grubbs in the class of quarterback. You want to make sure you build around him. They've already got a receiver that's talented in Dylan Faison. Now they've got 2 offensive linemen that the staff is very high on. One, I see some tools, but he's going to need a lot of work, and Sullivan Garvin. But staff loves him. And then the other is a guy that I'm more on the same page with the staff on this one. Where I see a more higher floor player than Garvin. Ceilings are very similar. And you could even argue Garvin might have a little bit of a higher ceiling, but much higher floor from Nichols, in my opinion. But you put the 2 of them together, and you got 2 6'5 plus, 300+ pound young blockers that are going to bring some beef to the table. And that's what Mike Denbrock wants. Mike Denbrock wants, for his zone duo offense, he wants big movers. That's what he wants. Physical in here, fast out there. That's what he wants to be. And doesn't mean he wants slow plotters. And this kid is not a slow plotter. But he wants guys that can move people. That's what you want if you're going to run inside zone, duo, and counter, and the things that Notre Dame does. So it's one of the more easy, non-complicated backstories that we're going to have for recruit Trevor in this one. It's just they liked him early, got him on campus a bunch of times, recruited their butts off. Joe Rudolph did a great job on this one, and now he's in the class, and they now have a second offensive lineman in the class, 4 total offensive players. It's a good place to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's the recruiting story that you want to hear, not a whole lot of drama. The staff did a good job of getting him onto campus multiple times. Then he looks like a good player. I agree with you on his floor being higher than Sullivan Garvin's. The thing that jumps off the page with me with Ben Nichols is he's very physical, which fits right into what Denbrock is going to want to do with his interior offensive lineman. He's very quick off the ball. Very quick off the ball, which I like. He loves to finish blocks. He's a really tenacious blocker. And I only watched his sophomore highlights because that's what I found on his like 247 recruiting page. I haven't even watched junior or senior year highlights or anything like that. But yeah, he's a kid that he's going to take a little bit of I don't know what the word, shaping, getting into that college level shape.
Mhm.
you know.
Which
But I
most
mean,
315-pound
right,
juniors in high school have that
right,
same thing. He's a
mhm,
typical northern, Midwestern country boy type of body type,
right,
right? Broad shoulders, big hips, big butt, big thighs, big feet, big hands. You're going to need a little bit of reconditioning, like not as much as Garvin, in my opinion, but going to need some reconditioning. But boy, he's going to be a 320, 325-pound kid. So Sullivan Garvin, and you're going to see a line that the way that with Will Black and Owen Strebig and Peter Jones and guys like that they've recruited in recent years. Even Styles Prescott, who I think is going to fill out a lot. And then of course these two kids, you're going to have a lot more 315 plus pound guys in your starting lineup in the next, 4 or 5 years. Gerby Lambert, obviously, is already 320. Charles Jagasaw is 330. So Notre Dame, and not a lot of those guys are stiffs, Trevor. You know what I mean?
right,
Like, it's
right.
not like they're recruiting guys with bad feet and that, but they are looking to get bigger up front. It's very obvious that that's one thing that Joe Rudolph wants to do. He at tackle, he wants length, but some size. Matty Augustine and Will Black, when they first signed him, you're like, well, Matty Augustine was like really thin. Now he's 290 plus, and he's going to fill out. He's going to be 305, 310, and that's their smallest guy. I mean, when you look at what they've landed in the last couple of years, him and Styles Prescott, the only other one of their smallest guys, the smallest guy they had is Anthony Knapp, who we've seen as a pretty. But what does Anthony Knapp always have? The one thing we always compliment Anthony Knapp on, he's a powerful kid,
Yeah,
and not just for his size, he's just a powerful kid, period, which allows him to be able to hold up at 290 pounds for Notre Dame. So. But with this last couple classes, last year's class with Will Black, Owen Strebig, Matty Augustine, and now that was a tackle-oriented class. Now this is clearly going to be a more interior-oriented class. Have some thoughts on that later. They're getting some beef. I mean, Matty Augustine. Actually, this Ben Nichols is probably the shortest. Actually, let me see that picture of. There was a picture that Sullivan Garvin tweeted out, standing next to Ben Nichols. It looks like they're similar in height. I kind of feel like in this picture, Trev, that Nichols is standing straight up and Garvin's leaning down. So maybe Garvin's a tad taller. They're similar. They're both 6'5". Like, so they're getting some big kids, and that's clearly a point of emphasis for Joe Rudolph of what he's trying to build. And you got to think about with the running backs they're recruiting. If you have an offensive line made up of a bunch of 320 plus pounders, you start getting a little excited about that. You know what I mean?
oh yeah. I mean, they're putting together such a good offensive line class, like just kind of year over year, that I guarantee you and I are going to be sitting in a show in 2026 talking about, man, could you imagine if Jeremiah Love ran behind this offensive line? You know what I mean? Like it's going to be one of those, but they're building out some really good things, man. And you can see kind of the vision long term of what Mike Denbrock wants this offensive makeup to kind of look like, right? And so, it's promising. And I think that a guy like Ben Nichols fits right in that mold. I do.
Right. So you look at the class impact. This is your second pure interior player, in my opinion. The way that Joe Rudolph recruits, he kind of recruits tackles and insides, but he always tries to find at least one every couple of years, a true center. That's why they went after Cam Herron last year. I don't
Sure.
know that there's a guy that they view as a pure center in this class, but they are recruiting more interior oriented guys right now. And then there's a couple tackles that they like as well. And as we kind of do our, look into our what's next, we're going to break down some film here in a few, but just want to kind of move the what's next up here, because now that you've got the two guards, Gregory Patrick's another kid that they're looking at who's more of an interior guy. Maybe one of these, like I actually think Ben Nichols could potentially Nichols or Garvin, one of those, depending on how their strength program goes, could maybe develop the agility to be a right tackle. They're more interior guys, I believe. However, right now, without projecting some improvement in those areas, they're both interior guys. Gregory Patrick could potentially be that center type of prospect. 6'4", 285. He's a pretty good high school tackle as well. After that, it's going to be focusing on tackles. I think Tyler Merrill is a guy that the staff likes a lot. I think he could be a right tackle at the next level as well. And then, of course, there's a couple other players on the board that are still kind of in the infancy stages that are more tackle type. So I think there are some tackles on the board, but, Gregory Patrick, Tyler Merrill are sort of the next two guys that this staff really likes. And I think Merrill, could also be a guard if that gets him on the field the fastest. But I think he's also a guy that I could see playing some right tackle for Notre Dame down the road also, so if they're able to get him. And, right now they're in a dogfight with Penn State. And I don't know, saying that again. They're in a battle with Penn State and Michigan, some other teams for him. But Gregory Patrick, again, another kid that's, Michigan's looking at, some others are looking at. So they're going to be a battle for them. But they're trying to get 3 Michigan kids in this class, which is, kind of big. So get them big old Northern boys, right? I mean, these are the kind of linemen that Michigan has been recruiting that allowed them to go win back-to-back Joe Moore awards, right? 6'5", 315 to 325. Not elite athletes, but athletic enough to be movers. And that's what Notre Dame is trying to build with their offensive line, especially on the inside. They want more athleticism on the outside, for sure. So, but inside, the movement is key. You've got to be able to move, but you moving people is the number one requirement for what they're looking for interior players. And Ben Nichols fits that. And we'll see that when we get to the film as well. But that's kind of the backstory, the class impact, Trev, of landing Ben Nichols. It's a good, like you want to get the guys you want, right? I mean, that's the key. We could discuss, okay, should they have targeted this guy or that guy? Those are all fair conversation to have. This is a kid that as soon as they were on him, I watched the film and said, okay, yeah, I dig it. Let's go get him. You know what I mean? And they did. And Joe Rudolph got it done. And another notch in the recruiting belt for Joe Rudolph. So let's get into the film, Trev, and we're going to break down Ben Nichols' game. And the first thing you're going to see here, he's playing left tackle. First thing you're going to see, Trev, is a big kid that plays physical football. Game film shows a kid that is a little bit needs some consistency from a motor standpoint, but when he's on, he is a punishing young football player. And that's what his whole highlight is about physicality. He has a lot of that stuff. A lot of those just knockdown type of blocks, physical kind of blocks. I think right here, this play also shows a little bit why he's a guard. I think he's very quick out of his stance, Trevor. He comes vertically really well, which you saw in the last play. He can get those reach steps, but he's not a guy. You get past the second or third step, you see some of that tightness, right? You see some of that ankle tightness. You see a little bit of that hip tightness, and you say that's not a guy I want pass setting against Michael Williams and Jalen Walker and Damon Wilson and teams like that. But inside, I think he absolutely has the agility and quickness. Like this, athletically, vertically, I see a pretty good athlete, an explosive vertical athlete that can really punish people, and you can see him locked on, playing through the whistle, loses his leverage a little bit, but when you're driving a guy 30 yards, you're eventually going to lose your
I was
base.
about to say, yeah.
I mean, you see that nice little knee bend right there, Trev. He comes off. Look at that. Watch the knees. Nice little knee bend. He's not lifting his butt up, right? Nice knee bend, drives into the guy, delivers a punch, goes back at him. Play's not over yet, so I got to go back at this guy. I love that finish. I love that initial burst off the line. He's a really good guy off the ball vertically. Here's another good example that we're talking about, Trev. Look at that. This guy tries to go right underneath him, and look what he does. He gets low and just buries the guy, right? Doesn't let him. And look, like a lot of guys that are less athletic here, Trev, this play is a great example. When these little short high school linemen go underneath them, they just kind of fall on them because they're not athletic enough to get low and drive their feet. Watch this, Trev. Watch him engage and that guy rolls him, but he drives his feet through that contact. That's an example that shows me this kid's got some knee bend and this kid's got some vertical athleticism that I really like.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a great fit on the interior. I mean, obviously, you guys all see it. The thing that pops off the charts for me is just how quickly this kid gets off the ball and continues to go. Like there have been some plays where like the motor's a little bit inconsistent, but for the most part, granted, albeit this is like a highlight film, so I get it. But, I mean, he goes and continues to go because there have been some high school linemen that get off the ball relatively quickly, and then it's just kind of they fire off, and then they're just here. You know what I mean? Then they just kind of stick. And this kid continued. He has really good leg drive. He's quick off the ball, and he is very strong. I mean, like he doesn't let defenders get into his chest too much. He plays with good length. Good leg drive. I mean, this is fun.
He doesn't hit guys and take them immediately down either, Trevor. And that's something that can happen with powerful players that can't bend. is they tend to hit guys high and they go straight down. But because he has some nice bend, he gets underneath guys and he drives them off and doesn't just immediately flatten them, which is that's opening up run lanes. When you just come off the line and just punish a guy and put him on the ground, you're now in the run lane. Here, this kid drives people off the line and gets that kind of movement. To your point, Trev, I mean, you can see it. You can see it. Like, that's right there why he's a guard.
Yeah.
Right? You see that hip tightness. Look how tight he is in the hips. That's why you don't want him playing in space, trying to block. Notre Dame's going to play Georgia. You don't want him in space against Michael Williams and guys like that. You want him playing in tight quarters, and that's a perfect example because that's where he is a little bit limited, is that kind of stuff right there. That initial quickness, that short area quickness, really impressive. The long speed, the lateral quickness, not quite as good. And you can see that as an example. And you can see it in the other clip, but it was too far away to really see that on the other pull. But that right there is an example of why he's a guard and not a tackle, in my opinion. But like this, little short area quickness, he can overtake a 3 technique with that kind of get off. But he's not going to be a guy that's going to reach a wide 9 or, you know what I mean? Or going to handle a really athletic edge rusher in space, those type of things. But that short area quickness and power, which is what you need in a guard, is really impressive. I mean, he's got a lot of Rocco Spindler in him, but he's more athletic now than Rocco is now.
Sure.
You know, the foot quickness, but he's got a lot of Rocco in his game, Trev. You know, but with a little bit better foot quickness. But like, look at this. Look at him getting low and just exploding his hips into contact. Like, look at that flat back coming off the line. You can't do that if you don't have good knee bend, Trev. Look at that.
Right.
Boom.
No, man. I mean, his ability to stay low. Cause like another issue with like taller guys that, you know, I mean, this is his junior season highlights.
Yes, sir.
You know, so I mean, 16, 17 years old, like there's a tendency to kind of stand straight up. Like that was kind of one of my issues with Cam Herron, and he's 6'3", you know, like he was a guy that he's a strong kid, right? Don't get me wrong, but it was immediately up into this, you know? And yeah, no, man. I mean, this, you know, Ben Nichols is able to stay low. I mean, he does a really good job of, let's see how he does in space. That was just a funny little,
I don't know quite why this one is on the highlights.
I don't know why either. Look
at the hand speed. Okay, we don't see you again until the play's over. All right.
Well, because I didn't see that it was going to be like a screen coming back that way, and I was like,
you know what I do like about this one though? You can see here, you can see how thick he is.
Oh yeah,
like just hips,
the lower body,
butts, broad shoulders. This is a big boy. This isn't a fat kid. This is a big kid.
No, he's a big dude.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's got a gut. He's an offensive lineman, but he doesn't have a gut. Like, he doesn't have a gut like I got. You know what I mean? Like, he's just a big country boy, and that's what I like. It's like Quentin Nelson was 340 pounds. He was not fat at all. If you ever met Quentin Nelson at Notre Dame, you're like, this kid's not fat at all. He's just huge. He's just big. And that's what I see in Ben Nichols. This is not a big, chunky, fat kid that you got to get 15 pounds off of and then build it back up. Right. You know what I mean? This is a big boy. You got to reshape his body like you do every other 16-year-old or 17-year-old. But this isn't like he doesn't need like a Biggest Loser transformation before he's ready to play football. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like he's the type of big that you want an offensive lineman to be who's coming into Notre Dame.
Right.
You know, like he doesn't, to your point, he
got
doesn't have
to work with a little better angle here. You know, he's able to get away with it at the high school level. You know, he takes a little bit of a bad angle here and a better line. Drake Bowen's going to make him pay for that. But those are some of the technical things he's going to have to work on. Angles at times, definitely an area where he's going to need some help. But he does play with some nastiness. Like you see pictures of him, and he's got glasses on. And I feel like people that wear glasses can be very, especially bigger guys, can be very misleading in their personalities. Oh, big teddy bear. But when we watch him play, he's got some nastiness to him. This is another example of why he's a guard. This is not great change of direction quickness. Right. Like think about him trying to handle a wide rush that slants inside or spins inside or coming off of handling a twist off the edge. That agility side to side is not great. The long speed is not great, and that's why he projects as a guard, not a tackle.
Well, it's interesting. Like it's quick, but he doesn't go anywhere. You know what I mean? Like it's twitchy, like what you would want to see out of a guard, but not like you said, like not that sideline to sideline. Doesn't have that. Yeah,
That's where that hip tightness comes into play. I like this get off right here. This is another example. Nice flat back, just comes off, knee bend, boom. Good leg. He has some of the best leg drive I've seen on film in the 26 class. His feet never, like here, this is an example. A lot of kids that are young, when they hit, there's that point where they stop and then drive. And what you have to teach is you have to explode through contact.
Yeah.
This kid does as good of a job as I've seen on any high school lineman in 26 class at he drives his feet through contact. His feet never stop working. This is a perfect play that you can see right here. Look at this cut. Like Harry Heastan, if he was still coaching Notre Dame, would see this kid's film and like have to take his glasses off and like wipe tears out of his eyes. He's like, this kid does what I teach. And that's a big thing that we've talked about Notre Dame needing to do more of with their offensive line. This current offensive line still does that at times where they'll hit and stop. And this kid does a great job of driving his feet through contact.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Well, like you said earlier, I mean, it's typically when you see an offensive lineman this big at the high school level playing, let's be honest here, not equal competition, right? I mean, typically typically you see it and they hit them once and they're strong enough, they're big enough that they kind of just like push people down, but this kid finishes blocks, great leg drive. It's fantastic. I still cannot get over how quick he gets off the football.
Yeah, his vertical quickness is impressive. And that's what you need at guard, right? And including pass pro, because the guys get on you quick. You need to be able to get out of your stance. But again, here you go. Like he's got to really kind of drive off that back foot. You can see that there's some lumbering there.
Yeah.
And that is one of my concerns about him is Notre Dame does like to run counter and stuff. He's going to have to improve his footwork and get a little bit more of that initial quickness and getting around on pulls and kickouts. That's the reason, Trev, right there, why he grades as a top 250 lineman and not a top 100 lineman.
Yeah.
That right there.
Yeah.
That right there. If he improves that, that's where the 4.5-star upside comes from.
Sure.
Is if he can get a little bit quicker in that area, and that can happen with offensive linemen as they get older and get into a college strength program. If that part of his game improves, he goes from a top 250 guy to a top 100 guy, if not higher. Because again, 4.5-star upside equals top 50.
Sure.
Like if that part of his game improves, Trev, this is a kid that could be a really good player in the next level. There's so much of what I like about his game. He strikes with his hands. Like there's so much I love about this kid's film. He just has to improve that part right there. Honestly, that's the only thing that I really see lacking is that lateral agility, that long speed, things like that. Like coming off the line vertically, he's impressive. When he has to retreat, like you see here, he looks a lot less impressive, right? Real tight. You see that hip tightness come into play, and that's where he's going to have to get better, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But now this is back to what we like. Coming off the line, that's like, oh, okay, yeah. You'll see a couple of those long clips, and you're like, I don't know, man, I don't know. And then it's like, oh, yeah, that's why I love the kid. Now we're back to loving the kid because that's what he can do. That's what he does really, really well. That's what he does. Like, watch him use his hands here. So many linemen just hit with their bodies and their hands come super late. His hands and body are like hitting this guy at the same time. And he drives his feet through contact. I just really like this kid's film. Really like this kid's film. It's a lot to like, Trev.
Oh, he's tenacious, man. Finishes blocks, but finishes them like in the right way, like continuing the leg drive and over. There's, like I said, there's a lot of offensive linemen at this level that can kind of just push somebody down and then fall on top of them. Like he is finishing drives.
I love this here, right? I love this. What he'll learn at the next level is to get that punishment, but not lean into the punishment. So on that double team, he does a nice job of helping on the double team, and he comes off to the second level really well as far as knowing what to do. But see how he turns his hips inside? He'll learn to kind of punish that down and then stay vertical, keep his hips square, and that'll allow him to get to that outside shoulder of the tackle of the linebacker. Because again, in high school, this is a highlight reel clip, right? In college, that linebacker's coming off his outside and making that play right in the hole.
Right.
So those are technical things that he's going to have to improve upon, but the skill set is there. It's certainly there. Big physical kid. Really big physical kid. Yeah, he's not great in space. He's not great in space. And again, that's one of those things that keeps him from being a tackle, number one,
right,
at the next level, and keeps him being a top 100 guy. There's a lot about his game that's top 100 caliber. And he's not far away on my point system from being a top 150 guy, Trev. But it's that lateral quickness. And then I just don't see a lot of pass pro from him on film. Like his high school, they throw the ball a little bit, but it's quick game. It's moving the pocket. It's stuff like that. Not a ton of that I've seen a ton of drop back and throw it a million times, right? And when they do, you see some of that, right? Yeah, physical, but slow feet in space.
Yeah, slow feet and just things that, won't be able to do at the collegiate level. Like you can't be focusing on getting a pancake in pass pro. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
nice working inside here. He knows where the ball is going. He's got to seal off that inside gap. Nice job working his feet, working his butt around to seal that guy off. Really nice job there. Really nice job there against a bigger kid too. Stay on that block. Like that's something I hate when linemen do that. Don't throw that guy because then you're going to throw him into the ball carrier. Stay on him. Stay engaged. Stay engaged. Stay engaged. Stay engaged. He throws the guy into the running back. Watch.
Yeah.
Throws him into the running back. No, that's not how you want to finish. But I love the mindset. He'll learn. He'll learn that stuff. But I love the mindset, the punishing lines mindset that he has.
He also does a really good job of keeping his hands inside.
Yeah.
Like especially when he's trying to work back and angle back in, turn his backside to the alley. I mean, he does a good job of not like kind of grabbing around the outside. I mean, we see some Notre Dame offensive linemen have issues with that today.
Right.
So does a really good job of keeping his hands inside too.
Yep. That is just messed up. I love that play. Oh, that is just so wrong. That is just okay, here's an example. You see two things in this clip. One is not good, one is good. What's not good is, again, not great foot quickness in space. But I love the hand play here. And that's where you say, okay, can he pass pro at guard? Watch the hand play here. This is really good. Really good. Like, look at him reset. Like, that's good hand fighting by both of those guys. You know what I mean? Like, they're both resetting. Good. He's got guard length because you don't want stubby armed linemen anywhere. He's not stubby armed, but he also doesn't necessarily have like Gerby Lambert, Emil Wagner, Charles Jagasol type of length. But he's, you know what I mean? So like, there's a lot to like there. A lot to like there, Trev. So that is Ben Nichols Jr. film. You guys can see what Notre Dame likes. When you watch him and Sullivan Garvin together, you see a pattern. When you watch them, when you watch Will Black, when you watch On Strebig, you see guys that are moving people. And that's a good sign, very good sign for the future of what Notre Dame is going to try to do. I'll be honest, I don't love recruiting a bunch of guards. I'm a big fan of recruiting tackles, and then, some guys move inside. I do think that's the one critique I do have of Coach Rudolph's recruiting is he recruits a lot of pure interior guys. That'd be my only complaint overall of recruiting is that right there. But if you're talking about you need to recruit guys, somebody's got to play guard. And this is the kind of kid that either as a guard or a center could be that guy. And you need that. And he fits that. I mean, think of it. Notre Dame's an inside zone team. You want that kid coming off the line on double teams with, a Gerby Lambert or a Will Black or a guy like that driving on double teams? Heck to the yes, you do. You absolutely do. And if Sullivan Garvin can improve in the ways that we talked about with him, get quicker, get more athletic, improve some of those things, his technique needs a ton of work. Like him and Ben Nichols are polar opposites from a technical standpoint. Ben Nichols is really advanced technically in a lot of ways in the run game. Sullivan Garvin needs a lot of work. But one thing they have in common, they're big and they're physical. And that's a very important thing. Very important thing.
Yeah, it's a great foundation and great to get into the program and start developing and, get them around other offensive linemen that have been in the program for a while, get them around Joe Rudolph and Mike Denbrock. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yep.
It's just nice watching guys come in that have that kind of tenacity.
Yep. Before we get out of here, Trev, we do have about 4 super chats I want to get to really fast. Got my guy Charlie Weiss's last bell loop. Thank you, Charlie. 2113 Irish. Appreciate you, man. I don't care if it's 21-13, 50-13, 3-0. Just make sure you have more points than they have at the end of the game. That's what matters. Got a super chat from Lou Holtz, Thunder and Bolts. Thank you for the super chat. This game has don't flinch vibes all over it. What do you think flinching would look like for Notre Dame in this game and for Georgia? You mentioned this either, Trevor. It's, what flinching will look like for me is a big mistake happens and it creates a snowball effect. And the offense gives up an early turnover and the defense allows them to go score. And then the offense panics and, gets out of what they want to do. They come throw the ball 3 times out in the next series, go 3 and out. And all of a sudden, you shank a punt. What no flinching looks like? First quarter against Clemson in 2015. That's what flinching looks like. Your offense goes 3 and out. Your punter shanks a punt. You give them the ball at the 25-yard line after they're already up 7-0. Your defense gives up 2 scores in a row. That's what flinching looks like.
Yeah.
In a game like this. And it's true for both teams. And for Georgia, what flinching looks like is Notre Dame jumps on them early and they get away from what they came in trying to do. Same thing. It's similar for both teams. That's what flinching looks like. You make a mistake or the other team does something good and then you panic and get away from what you do. Or you make mistakes that you're not used to making. Putting the ball on the ground. Running backs putting the ball on the ground. That's not something we're used to this team doing. Defensive linemen being out of gaps. Cornerbacks trying to do things that they're not normally asked to do. Trying to jump things and get beat on double moves because they're trying to, make a play because they got beat on the last play, and then it compounds it with another big play.
Being undisciplined after the whistle.
Bingo. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All good stuff. All ways of flinching. And I agree with you that this, and Trevor, you talked about that earlier with Notre Dame against Indiana. They didn't flinch. Not only did they have the interception, but they also on that drive gave up the long throw to Elijah Surratt. And again, they didn't flinch. Came back the next play, great coverage, interception, and then 98-yard touchdown. So that's a big one. And one of the things that just drives me nuts is people say, well, outside of this run and that run, I'm like, so if Jeremiah Love would have gone 98 yards on 7 carries, that would have been better for you than him doing it on 1, because now if you take away this, this, and this, they would have averaged that. And it's like, guys, it's 98 yards and it's a touchdown. Like, whether he did it on 1 carry or 7 doesn't really matter a whole lot. You know what I mean? And Notre Dame showed that they could do both, because go watch what they did running the ball the very next series. And say, well, why Jeremiah Love only have 8 carries? Well, one of the reasons why is because on his series, because they rotate series, on his series, he went 98 yards on 1 play. On Jadarian's series, they went 16 yards, took 9 minutes off the clock, which I said they took at least 20 minutes off the clock. It was 45 minutes of real time that Notre Dame was on the field on that drive, because you had the quarter changeover, you had some timeouts. 45 minutes is what they said that was of real time. So, yeah, that's why he didn't get as many carries, because Jadarian on his series went 16 plays. It took 9 minutes off the clock, and he had the flu. So, that's kind of where it's at. Another one from Lou Holtz, Thunder and Bolts. Thank you so much for this. And a Merry Christmas to IB and the IB community. Christ is born. Now let's get that W for his mother's favorite team. It's a little blasphemous there, but, it's all good. I appreciate you. We aren't going to have a show tomorrow. I'm actually thinking about putting out my Christmas wish list video for tomorrow, which is always kind of funny or kind of fun. I do usually an article. I might do a video. But before we do go, because we got 2 more, Aidan Banami, with Super Chat, Merry Christmas, IB. Happy birthday, Jesus. Go Irish. And then Irish for Life 99 with a Super Chat. Thank you. Gotta go. Merry Christmas, everyone. I got the Christmas movie Die Hard queued up for later. Yes, you do. It's not Christmas until Hans falls from Nakatomi Tower. I had a very disappointing conversation with my wife the other day, Trevor, that then turned into a good conversation. So 2 strikes against my wife that I'm glad I didn't know this before we got married. She doesn't like A Christmas Story, which I find to be blasphemous, very blasphemous. And I found out last week she doesn't like A Christmas Vacation. I said, next thing you know, you're going to tell me that you don't think Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And she redeemed herself by saying, oh, I would absolutely watch Die Hard with you. And I was like, okay, cool. Because we were about to have to go into some marriage counseling if you would have said Die Hard's, didn't like Die Hard. But Yes, I was like, those are my favorite. Christmas Vacation and A Christmas Story I got to watch every Christmas. So this is now I have to watch Christmas Story alone because I know how much my wife hates it.
Oh,
But
so it's not even like she hates that movie?
she hates the movie, yeah. Like, and she's watched it enough with me that she's like, okay, I've watched it with you 4 or 5 Christmases. I don't need to keep watching it. So, which is fine because I'm usually up way later than she is. So I put it on at night when I'm working and I get to watch it and watch Ralphie shoot himself in the eye with a Red Ryder BB gun. So
Yeah, watch
but,
the very real ear of one of the Bumpus's dogs caught in the door.
Fragile. Must be Italian. So yeah, great movie. So I'll be watching the Christmas Vacation tonight, Christmas Story tonight, Die Hard. So gonna be a lot of fun. So appreciate you. But we are done, guys. I want to appreciate you all very much. Listen, want to thank you all so much for everything you've done for us. We are not done this year. We're gonna obviously be back on Wednesday or Thursday. Excuse me. Trev's like, what? Wednesday, Thursday, the 26th. We'll be back on the 20th. Your face was great. You're like, wait a minute, what? I thought I had Christmas off. Thursday, we'll be back to break down, take a deeper dive into the Notre Dame Georgia matchup, talk about a lot of different aspects of this matchup. We're going to eventually fit a buy, so hold in a mailbag in here. We'll also have a show on Saturday. We're going to do our college football playoff preview on Saturday at noon, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that. But hey, all, very Merry Christmas to all of you. Not to all a good night because it's only 3:42, but just want to thank you all. One of the things that I'm thankful for is just all of you. We have a great community and we've grown and it's been a fun ride. And hopefully this ride is not over yet here. And we're going to have a couple more games. We're going to have hopefully 3 games in 2025 is what we're all hoping for. But the 13 they've played in 2024 have certainly been interesting and a lot of fun. And look forward to some more. But I want to thank you all very much. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas. For all of you traveling, safe travels, all right? Be safe. For all of you that get an opportunity to spend time with your family, make sure that you remind them how much you love them, not with gifts, but with words and with hugs. And just enjoy your time tomorrow. And we'll be thinking about all of you. I'll be praying for all of you. And I'm going to be relaxing. I'm going to do no work tomorrow is what I keep telling myself. But I've also had to tell Angela, but watching film doesn't count as work. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. So I'm I like this, honey. This is entertaining for me. I'm just watching Georgia film. So anyway, have an awesome rest of your day, everybody. Do us a favor, hit that like button on your way out of here. If you haven't signed up for the message boards yet, that'd be a great Christmas present for me, is signing up for the message board, an annual membership as well. In 2025, we are going to raise our rates a little bit. So if you're getting an annual membership, now's a great time to jump in before that goes up a little bit. And I'll have more on that after Christmas as we get into the first, letting you guys kind of know it's not going to be a big jump, but we are going to go up a little bit here in 2025. So I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you again here very soon, 2 days from now, Trev, on the Irish Breakdown Podcast.